Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am super excited to be bringing to you the 2022 Canyon Ultimate CF-SL8. As usual, we're going to be looking at the specs/features, we're going to find out the weight, we're going to look at the ride quality, and lastly, we're going to ask the question, should you buy this bike? So if you're excited, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let's hop right into it. Alright guys, well I am super excited to share with you this bike because I absolutely love this bike, and in my opinion this bike represents the pinnacle of value between price and performance. So let's hop right into the specs and features, starting with the frame. This is a fully carbon fiber frame and it is extremely lightweight. We'll check out the weight here in a second, but the frame is an awesome frame as a foundation. So then moving up to the top of the frame, let's look at the handlebar and stem. So the handlebar is actually Canyon's CP10 Aero cockpit. So what that means is it's a fully integrated handlebar/stem combination. So it's a very clean, sleek look. And this is actually a fully carbon fiber handlebar and stem combination that's even found on some of Canyon's super high-end Ultimate CFR range bikes, which cost around $9,500 to $10,000. So the handlebar stem is an extremely high performance handlebar, and it's just awesome. Now, you'll notice that the cabling isn't completely hidden, but it is routed through the tubing of the bike. And in my opinion, that is a extremely good compromise, because if you've ever had a bike that the cables are completely routed 100% through the handlebars, stem, and down through the head tube and through the rest of the tubing, you'll know that to make any kind of changes or maintenance or modifications to the bike requires a massive amount of disassembly, and it can really make it to the point where if you make one mistake, you can screw up your entire bike. But with a combination like this, where you do see the cabling and it's not completely hidden, I actually kind of like that, because if you ever do need to make some modifications to the steering, to the handlebars, to the group set, to the brakes, levers, whatever, it doesn't require you having to disassemble the entire front end of your bike. So it's a really good compromise in my opinion. Now you could say, oh, what about the watts lost with the cable drag? But you guys, honestly, that's probably like 1 to 3 watts maximum. So if you're concerned about that, I would say just pedal harder. Pedal 1 to 3 watts harder. I really don't think it's any big deal at all. Now, while we're at the top of the bike, let's move over to the seat post and saddle. Now, the seat post is Canyon's very own S13 VCLS carbon fiber seat post. And you guys, again, a fully carbon frame, fully carbon integrated stem and handlebar, and a carbon fiber seat post is such an excellent value. This seat post is awesome. Because it's carbon fiber, it offers a tremendous amount of comfort given the compliance, but it also has enough stiffness to make for really efficient pedaling efficiency. So it's an excellent seat post. Now, coming up here to the saddle then, this is Sella Italia's Model X saddle. It's a really basic saddle. I think this saddle sells for like 50 bucks and it weighs 315 grams. So it's not the highest end saddle. You could easily drop 100 grams off this bike by purchasing a lighter weight saddle. But given that the bike in and of itself is a ultra lightweight bike, I think it's totally fine. The only reason I'd really upgrade this saddle is if it wasn't comfortable for you, which saddles are all personal preference. But otherwise, I think it's a totally fine saddle, although it's not the highest end. Overall, the top of the bike is awesome. The frame is top notch. So now let's move over to, of course, the group set. Now for this bike, we are running the Shimano Ultegra R8000 series group set. So it's fully Ultegra throughout the bike. So the cranks, the cassette, the derailleurs, and the brake levers up here at the top are all going to be Shimano Ultegra, including the brakes. So these are rim brakes. That's all Ultegra. It's a awesome combination. Now, one reason why I think this bike is priced so cheap at $2,900, there's two reasons actually. One of them is because this is the older Ultegra. So it's the Ultegra R8000, which is a older version of the Ultegra. They're now on the 8100 series, and they're now up to 12 speed in the rear cassette. But honestly, this is 11 speed, and I think it is absolutely just fine. I don't think having one extra gear is going to make all the difference. I think 11 speed is totally fine. I've ridden this bike over hundreds of miles and had no problems at all. In the rear cassette, we are running a 11 to 30. Again, it's 11 speed. And then up at the front, we are running a 52-36 crankset. So it's an awesome setup for pretty much everything. Climbing, descending, the shifting performance on the Ultegra is really awesome. It is mechanical, it's not Di2, but I actually prefer mechanical because A, it typically saves weight, and B, you won't be halfway out on your ride and run out of battery and then have to just crawl home on the worst gear imaginable, which has happened to me and other people several times on Di2 bikes. So I actually prefer mechanical, and the shifting performance is really good. Now, one thing that this bike has, which most modern bikes today don't have, are rim brakes. And that's the second reason why I think this bike is priced at such a competitive low price, is because nowadays everybody wants disc brakes. But you guys, I think the rim brakes on this bike are completely fine. I mean, I know there's, everyone's like,
bro, you need disc brakes, man. You gotta get the best, you gotta get the greatest.
But unless you're descending down the Santa Monica Mountains at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour and you just need some tremendous stopping power, you guys, rim brakes are fine. I have disc brakes on other bikes that I ride. There's no difference really in all practicality. When you want to apply the brakes, the bike stops. It's as simple as that. Now, granted, if you go to the really high end, like, SRAM, Red, ETAP, yeah, you do notice a difference. Those brakes are a lot more modular. They're a lot more quick to respond. They are pretty cool, but I mean, at the end of the day, both this and the really high-end brakes, they stop the bike. I've never been on this bike and felt like, oh my gosh, the stopping power is just not enough, even on the super crazy descents. So I say it's totally fine. The only real downside, I'd say, with rim brakes are you have to be a little bit more careful with the inner tubes you run, because the friction that's applied to the rims can generate some heat, which if you're running latex tubes or plastic TPU tubes, then there's a chance that it could overheat and pop the inner tubes. But we're running some butyl inner tubes here, which are totally fine, never had a problem. Of course, also with rim brakes, some people say you shouldn't run carbon fiber rims, you should stick with aluminum. I know several people who run rim brakes and carbon fiber rims, never had any issues, but take that for what you will. But for all intents and purposes, this bike out of the factory is really top notch. So that's the top of the bike. That's the group set. Again, rim brakes. I think rim brakes are fine. The older Ultegra, it's 11 speed in the back versus the newer 12. But I think the Ultegra shifting performance, braking performance, and the weight of the group set is really good. So then let's look at the wheels and tires. So for the wheels, we are running the DT Swiss PR 1600 spleen wheels. Now these wheels as a pair weigh 1,623 grams, which is pretty good. It's pretty lightweight. They are aluminum rims, so they're not carbon fiber. Canyon may have chosen to outfit it with those aluminum rims because A, we're running rim brakes, and or B, to save some money. But for 1,623 grams for a full set, that's pretty good, especially for aluminum. So I have no complaints there. For the tires, we are running the Continental Grand Prix 5000 tires. I absolutely love how these ship stock with the bike. These are my absolute favorite tires ever, hands down. For me, they offer the perfect combination of puncture protection and speed. I have taken these same tires on courses and roads and surfaces that I could have sworn today is going to be the day that I get a flat tire. But I have never once gotten a flat on these tires, even in situations when I could swear that I'm going to. These tires are extremely fast as well. They won't be as fast as your time trial tires, but the difference is so minuscule, and the puncture protection that these offer, I say, definitely compensates for whatever few watts you gain with a faster tire. So I really love how these tires are stock. In fact, any road bike that I get, the first thing I would pretty much always do is change the tires to Conti GP 5000s. These are my absolute favorite tire. So you guys, those are the wheels, those are the rims. Now, driving the crankset in the middle is going to be Shimano's Ultegra press fit bottom bracket. It is press fit, so it's not threaded, There's a big debate in the biking community about what's better between threaded and press fit. I don't think it really matters that much. I say just ride your bike, but the conventional wisdom seems to be that press fit's a little bit better because A, it's lighter because you don't have the threading that actually adds some weight, but then also press fit can be a little bit bigger, so they tend to be a little more stiff and just the power transfer is better. That's what the conventional wisdom says. I'm sure you could find arguments for both. I don't tend to get into it because I think that they're both fine, and I think there's better ways you can focus on improving your ride than the bottom bracket. Those are the specs / features of this bike. Again, you guys, this is a really, really awesome setup, fully carbon fiber, except for the wheels. So let's go hop in the garage, check how much it weighs, and we'll come right back. All right, guys, 2022 Canyon Ultimate CFSO coming in at 16.91 pounds. Now, granted, that is with a Garmin mount on the back, Garmin mount on the front, 2 water bottle cages, and some rather heavy flat pedals. So keep that in mind. Without that, you'd probably drop this right down to around 16 pounds even. All right, guys, so now let's look at the ride quality of this bike. Well, this to me is where this bike really, really shines. The lightweight nature of this bike, combined with the aero cues and the overall awesome componentry, make for a incredible, incredible ride. When I ride this bike, I feel like the bike isn't even there. I feel like it's just me and I'm just soaring through the air. You feel like you're flying up the hills. You feel like you're flying down the hills. You feel like you're flying on the flats. It's such an awesome ride. There are some bikes that I ride that when I'm on the bike, I kind of feel like this bike is getting in my way. I feel like I'm putting out my effort, but the bike isn't rewarding me, or the bike is sort of standing in between me and pure speed. That is not the case with this bike. With this bike, you don't even know you're on a bike. You just feel like you are in the air, and every bit of wattage you throw down on those pedals, the bike rewards you for. It is really, really an awesome ride. In fact, you guys, the fastest I have ever gone on any bike on my standard test loop has been on this very bike. As some of you know, I have a test loop that I do that I take all different kinds of bikes on to test the performance, and this has been the fastest I've ever gone on that loop. So it is an incredibly fast bike. It is extremely spunky, nimble, agile. You really just feel like you are in control of this thing, and you really feel like you are a world tour racer who can just win anything on this bike. Even if your fitness is bad, which mine probably is compared to a lot of people, you still feel like you're a world tour rider, and I think that's really important. So the ride quality of this bike is really, really good. The only thing I will say is that if you are someone who is specifically looking for comfort, you may not find it in this bike, because this bike, although it's a very awesome performer, it does have a pretty racy geometry. So what that means is over long periods, you might tend to feel a little bit uncomfortable versus more of like an endurance bike like the Canyon Endurace or the Trek Domani, because those bikes are going to be a little more upright. This one's a little bit more aggressive. Now, me personally, I'm fine with that. I can usually just, after a week of riding at the beginning of the season, I can pretty much stretch out of that. And I'm not even very flexible. I can't even touch my toes. But even for someone like me who's not very flexible, I have no problem at all riding a bike with this kind of geometry. So take that for what you will. Again, I think it's fine, but if you are somebody who cares more about comfort rather than speed, this might not be the bike for you. Okay, so that segues right into the question, should you buy this bike? And guys, I can say unequivocally, hands down, no questions asked, the answer is yes, you should buy this bike. This bike retails at $2,900. And for that price, the level of componentry you are getting and the performance of the bike that you are getting, in my opinion, is second to none. You will not find a better bike for that price anywhere, period. The Ultegra componentry, the ultra lightweight setup of this bike is absolutely stunning for such a low price of $2,900. Now, of course, that's almost $3,000. It's still a lot of money, but this is the kind of bike, you guys, that you pay for it once and it will last you forever. This is the only bike you need if you want to go fast, uphill, downhill, on the flats, you name it. The weight of this bike in particular is so incredibly noteworthy. It's so incredibly lightweight. For that price point of $2,900. That's so unheard of. Even for a bike double this price, you probably still would have a hard time finding a bike of that weight. Now, you can get a better bike than this, of course. I mean, if you want to go up to Canyon's Ultimate CFR range, those bikes cost like $9,500, $10,000, even $11,000. Those are going to be lighter weight and have better components. But how many of us realistically have that kind of money to spend on a bike? Most of us are not sponsored. Most of us are not making money on this stuff. We're just riding our bikes. And so for $2,900, which I think is a pretty decent budget for a road bike, I don't think you will find anything better than this. So then you could ask the question, well, what about Canyon's new 2023 Ultimate lineup? Because they just revamped their lineup for 2023 on September 8th of this year, which is 2022. And now their current 2023 CFSL model sells for $2,999, about $3,000. So the question is, should you just buy that one then? Because that's the newer model, and why not go for the newer stuff? Well, in my opinion, the answer is still no. You should still buy this bike. And the reason is because that new 2023 model is $100 more expensive than this, and it weighs a lot more. It weighs 1.2 kilograms more than this bike does, and the componentry is lesser quality. It has the 105, Shimano 105, which is a tier lower than the Ultegra. Even though this is an older Ultegra, it's still an Ultegra. It's still a very good Ultegra. So the answer, in my opinion, no. Just save the money. You get a better bike here. It's lighter and it's cheaper and it has better components. So what else can you ask for? Now, I know that newer bike, 2023 model, has disc brakes versus the rim brakes here. These are mechanical rim brakes. The other one has hydraulic disc brakes. But again, you guys, I don't think it matters. I really don't. I know some of you may flame me in the comments and you may say,
oh, disc brakes, blah, 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 blah.
Guys, I'm just speaking to you from my experience, okay? I've ridden disc brakes, rim brakes, hydraulic, mechanical. I've ridden fixies that have no brakes. I've ridden everything. And I'm telling you guys, this is fine. So I think that if you have a budget of $3,000, in my opinion, this is the bike to buy. Buy this bike. This is the best bike you can buy for a $3,000 budget. Just trust me on that. It's a really, really good bike. So, do I have any complaints about this bike? Well, the only complaint that I really have about this bike, and this is such a nitpicky complaint, this is just me personally, I think Canyon in general doesn't have the most interesting paint jobs. I think other companies like Trek and Cervelo and maybe even like Scott are more or less leading the industry with their paint jobs. Canyon tends to be a little bit more on the boring side for me personally, but there is a philosophy behind that. Canyon says that their philosophy is that they want to make bikes that get out of the way. They don't want to draw attention to the bike. They want to draw attention to the performance of you as the rider. So they tend to make their bikes a little bit more on the humble, subtle side, and I totally get it. This is definitely a bike when you ride it, it feels like it gets out of the way, and it feels like the only thing that matters is you when you're out there on the road. So I totally get it. And by no means is this a crappy looking bike. I think this bike looks good. I think it looks good. I wouldn't say it looks amazing, but it looks good. So I wouldn't say it's a reason not to buy this bike. And one thing you could do if you want to make this bike look cooler right away is you could probably put some deep dish wheels on there, like 48 mil wheels, and that'll automatically make any bike look awesome. So there's definitely ways to spice up the bike, but I don't think you even have to. I think if you buy this bike, it's an awesome, awesome bike. You guys, I just can't stress it enough. If you have a budget of $3,000 and you want to buy a bike that goes fast, this is the bike to get. Even if you have a budget of $6,000, I would still say this is the bike to get. This is such a fast, awesome bike. I really can't recommend it enough. So that's my review, guys. Thank you for watching. Drop a like if you liked it and hit subscribe for more reviews like this. I got a lot more bikes in the works. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate the support, and until next time, I'll see you later.